Everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, obviously still traveling and obviously still by my voice, you can hear I am under the weather, but the show must go on. So let's keep on rolling. And the question I'm asking today is, what do you do when your internet service provider intentionally infects you? Now, this is actually really interesting and it's coming from Tech Radar. And quite frankly, this is really illegal. And we're about to talk about that. So one of the largest telecom providers, aka internet service providers in South Korea, which is where this is coming from, allegedly targeted hundreds of thousands of its own customers with malware. And this was an attempt to get them to stop actually using BitTorrent sites. Now, BitTorrent is essentially a peer-to-peer standard where it allows people to share files and all of that. A lot of pirated movies, programs, whatever, goes through this. So it obviously generates a lot of traffic. ISPs typically are not fans of this. And here we are. So local media outlets in South Korea are claiming that Korea Telecom, or KT, used illegal methods to try and curb the use of this peer-to-peer software. Now, apparently, KT set up an entire division dedicated to developing, maintaining, and distributing the malware. So this was very much intentional, according to reports by them. Now, the entire operation started in May of 2020. If you recall, the pandemic was in full swing back then. Everybody was in lockdown. South Korea, for the record, was known for really being on it during the pandemic. And by virtue of that, I have no doubt that the internet traffic across Korea was really spiking, therefore putting stress on the infrastructure as it was around the world. And so this started in May of that year. And at one point, they had infected roughly 600,000 of their customers. Now, the victims were users of what is known as the GRID program, which then suddenly started creating on your computer strange folders or outright hiding downloaded files. And in some cases, these infected PCs just stopped working altogether. Now, a GRID program representative basically told the media in South Korea that the only people using KT's internet lines were actually affected. And since the malware seemingly came from KT's data center, which was the Bundang IDC center, the police got involved. Now, and I apologize to my Korean listeners or watchers here as I'm about to butcher your beautiful language, but apparently the Gyeonggi Southern District Office suspects KT violated the Communications Secret Protection Act, CSPA, of South Korea, as well as the Information Communications Network Act also. Now, in the meantime, the KT CEO basically stepped down. In other words, this is a scandal that essentially caused him to lose his job. Now, in total, 13 individuals thus far have been identified and also have been referred for prosecution by the South Korean state, basically via the South Korean police. A new investigation has also now started as of last month. And so the real question is, what do you do? Now, this is a real interesting thing, especially here in the United States, where a lot of the telecom markets, a lot of the internet service provider markets are locked down in some cases to a single major internet provider, where you may only have one option like AT&T or Comcast or Cox or any one of the big ones. And if you can't go anywhere else and they start doing this in some way, shape, or form, that's an issue. Now, we've seen this somewhat, not quite infections, but along the lines of net neutrality, where we've seen AT&T, for example, and I believe Verizon as well, but don't quote me on that, intentionally slow our connections to competing services to try to prioritize their own services, which is why things like net neutrality actually exist, because quite frankly, they'll do it. Going to the point of infection, that's obviously an issue. This isn't like a misconfiguration that's sending things back where they back to like mistake by a developer. This was apparently an intent to actually block what they wanted to block by infecting their actual customers. So it's something to be, considerate of. And quite frankly, if we don't have laws that protect us from this kind of thing above and beyond net neutrality, because this is not about bandwidth prioritization, it's about stopping product altogether. This is something that needs to be addressed, quite frankly, by law, and probably not just the United States. So I'll leave it at that. That is your news of the day. I think it's absolutely insane, but this is the world we live in. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and just please attempt to stay private and obviously virus free, especially if you're in South Korea and use KT. Take care.